I thought a quiet escape to Miami Beach with my husband would heal the cracks in our marriage, but instead, it exposed the deepest betrayal I'd ever face. When he casually told me, "Relax, I just put sunscreen on her back," something inside me shattered and I realized I'd been blind to a truth he never intended for me to uncover. What followed was a spiral of lies, humiliations, and secret messages that forced me to confront the woman I had become. But while everyone expected me to crumble, I began crafting a plan, a long, deliberate strategy to reveal everything he'd been hiding. By the time the truth exploded, I wasn't the same woman who walked onto that beach, and neither was he. I always thought Miami's sunrise was incapable of lying. It rises honestly, a slow, molten spill of gold over the edges of the ocean, warming everything it touches. But that morning, it felt different. As I stepped out onto the balcony of our hotel room, clutching my robe tighter around me, the heat didn't reach me, not really. Something inside of me stayed cold, untouched. Maybe I should have recognized the feeling for what it was, a warning. A quiet voice whispering, "Pay attention. Today will change everything." But instead, I tried to swallow it. I forced myself to believe the lie I'd been telling myself for months. My marriage wasn't falling apart. I was just overthinking. Right? "We should go down soon." My husband, Daniel, called from inside the room. His voice was casual, too casual, like someone who hadn't kept me up until 2 in the morning arguing about nothing and everything. He stepped out onto the balcony beside me. Shirtless. Hair messy, wearing that half smile that used to melt me. Now it felt like a mask. "Yeah," I murmured, "I'll change." We'd come to Miami for a reset, as he called it. His idea, not mine. He'd booked the hotel, chosen the beach, planned everything. At first, I'd taken it as a sign he wanted to fix us. Now, I wondered if he simply wanted a convenient backdrop. The beach was already alive, children laughing, umbrellas blooming like oversized flowers, waves folding into the sand in steady rhythm. But something about the air felt heavy. As if the world knew a secret it wasn't ready to tell me. Daniel spread out our towels while I rubbed sunscreen into my shoulders. He wasn't really looking at me, just scanning the beach around us. That's when I noticed her. A woman in a bright teal bikini standing a few feet away. Her back to us. Long curly hair. Smooth skin. A toned figure that suggested she spent more time at the gym than I ever had the energy for. She glanced back toward Daniel. He smiled. My stomach tightened. But I told myself not to react. Not again. Not over nothing. We settled down. I opened my book and pretended to read while watching the waves. For a few minutes, things were calm. Almost normal. Then Daniel stood abruptly. "I'm gonna grab a drink," he said. "Okay," I replied, not looking up. But as he walked away, he didn't head toward the small beach bar. He headed straight toward her. The woman in the teal bikini. My breath stalled. I wanted to call out. I wanted to ask where he was going. But something made me stay silent, a sick instinct that told me the answer would hurt more if I heard it out loud. I watched him say something to her. She laughed. He leaned closer. My fingers tightened around my book until the pages bent. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Then 15. He didn't come back. I kept my eyes fixed on the shoreline, pretending not to care, but every passing second carved a deeper crack inside my chest. When he finally returned, he was smiling in that same casual, mask-like way. "Sorry," he said lightly, dropping into his chair. Something in me twisted. "Who?" I asked. "Oh, just a girl from the bar area. She needed help with sunscreen." He blinked. Slowly. "What?" I whispered. Daniel laughed, as if the whole thing were harmless. As if he hadn't just abandoned me on a beach and walked straight to another woman. "Relax," he said. "I just put sunscreen on her back. If you're so jealous." I didn't hear the rest. Because the moment those words left his mouth, the world went quiet. The wind. The waves. The noise of the beach. It all faded. I felt his sentence like a knife. Sharp. Effortless. A casual explanation of something he knew would hurt me. I stared at him. At the man I married. At the man who was now looking at me with irritation, not concern. "You put sunscreen on a stranger?" He frowned. "What?" It's not a big deal, she asked. I helped. Stop being dramatic. Dramatic. That word, God, that word. It wasn't the first time he'd used it. Whenever I caught something off, whenever my instincts whispered warnings he didn't want to face, I was dramatic. But this time, something inside me clicked. I didn't argue. I just said, quietly. Show me your hands. Daniel blinked, confused. What? Your hands, I repeated. If you put sunscreen on her back, your hands should have lotion on them. He froze. A passing shadow crossed his expression, quick, but real. And it told me everything. I wasn't dramatic. I wasn't imagining things. My husband was lying. And whatever he was hiding, it was only the beginning. I stood up. The sand felt hot under my feet, almost scalding. I walked away before he could say anything else. I needed air. I needed space. I needed to think. But as I reached the shoreline, staring out at the shimmering horizon, the truth clawed its way through the denial I'd built over months. This wasn't about sunscreen. It wasn't even about that woman. It was about the growing distance between us, the unexplained late nights, the sudden phone privacy, the way he flinched when I walked into a room unexpectedly. He was hiding something. And now, I had seen enough to stop pretending otherwise. For a moment, I closed my eyes and let the breeze graze my skin, trying to calm my breathing, trying to steady myself. But when I turned around, I froze. The woman teal bikini had walked over to Daniel. She leaned down, said something, and he smiled again. Not the irritated smile he gave me. Not the flat, emotionless one I'd come to expect. A real smile. Warm. Familiar. The kind he used to give me. My throat tightened. I watched as she lightly touched his shoulder. And he didn't pull away. That was when I realized something horrifying. This wasn't a first-time interaction. They knew each other. And whatever they were hiding, they were too comfortable to be strangers. I walked back quietly, slowly. Daniel looked up, startled when he realized how close I was. Oh, he said too quickly. This is... He paused, searching for a name. The woman waited. Amusement flickering in her eyes. Ah, Jessica, he finished. Jessica raised an eyebrow, as if the name surprised her too. She extended a hand. I didn't take it. I simply stared at Daniel. At the panic starting to surface behind his smile. There. Finally. A real emotion. Where are you from? I asked her. She smirked. Here. Miami. Really? And how long have you known my husband? Daniel stepped between us. Okay, enough. You're acting crazy. No, I said softly. I'm asking a question. Jessica shrugged. Couple months. My heart stopped. Daniel's face drained of color. Jessica. What? She said. You told me she knew. The world splintered. Knew. Knew what? I felt the sand shifting beneath my feet, the entire beach blurring around me. Daniel, I whispered. What did she mean by that? He opened his mouth. Then shut it. In that silence, in that hesitation, I finally had my answer. I just turned around and walked away past the umbrellas, past the families, past the waves. I walked until the sound of the ocean muted behind me. I didn't look back. I couldn't, because if I did, I knew I'd break. Inside the hotel lobby, I collapsed onto a couch. My chest felt tight, as if someone had tied a rope around my ribs and kept pulling. My phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. Come back. You're overreacting. Then another. Don't embarrass us. And finally, we need to talk. Now. He still thought this was about jealousy. He still thought I didn't understand. But I understood more than he realized. I understood that the woman on the beach wasn't a stranger. She wasn't a random encounter. She was a secret he hadn't intended for me to ever see. And if I wanted the truth, I had to stop being the quiet, forgiving version of myself. I had to become someone he didn't expect. Someone he couldn't manipulate. Someone he couldn't lie to. I wiped my eyes, stood, and walked toward the elevator. If Daniel wanted to talk, I'd give him more than a conversation. I'd give him the moment his lies finally came undone. But when I stepped into our hotel room, Daniel wasn't alone. Jessica was standing there, holding something. Something of his. Something that made my blood run cold. When the elevator doors slid open onto our floor, I expected silence. I expected Daniel pacing, rehearsing excuses, preparing that tired speech he always used, the one designed to make me second-guess myself. But the moment I stepped into our hotel room, the air shifted. Jessica stood by the window, sunlight spilling over her like she belonged there. Like she'd stood in that exact spot before. And in her hand, she held Daniel's phone. Not hers. His. Daniel turned toward me abruptly. His voice was low, controlled, the way it got when he was cornered. "We need to talk," he said. My eyes didn't move from the phone in Jessica's hand. I could feel my pulse thudding in my throat, like my body already knew what my mind wasn't ready to accept. "Why does she have your phone?" I asked quietly. Daniel took a step toward me, palms open. "Because I asked her to bring it. I didn't want you walking out again." "Again?" I repeated. "After what I saw, you should be grateful I didn't walk out of the state." Jessica smiled faintly and crossed her arms. She wasn't uncomfortable. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't ashamed. She was confident. Comfortable. Too comfortable. Daniel reached for the phone, but Jessica didn't let go. She looked at him with a warning, almost playful, and he froze. And that tiny exchange, that single, stupid hesitation, felt like another crack splitting right through my chest. "Give it to me," Daniel muttered. Jessica finally handed it over, grazing his hand longer than necessary. He didn't pull away. I felt it like a punch to the gut. "Explain," I whispered. Daniel inhaled sharply, like someone preparing to lie. I watched his chest rise. And fall. And then rise again. "Nothing happened," he said. "She's just a friend." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the lie was so thin I could see right through it. "A friend you've known for a couple of months," I said. "A friend who knows things I don't. A friend whose name you didn't remember." I remembered. "You made one up, Daniel." His jaw tightened. Jessica shifted, leaning one hip against the window frame. "You're making this too big," she said. I turned my gaze to her, slow, steady, cutting. "And you're talking in my hotel room." She didn't flinch. She just tucked a curl behind her ear and smiled. Something inside me snapped. "Tell me the truth," I said to Daniel. "Right now. Because if you don't, you'll what?" He cut in. His tone changed. Not apologetics. Not desperate. Condescending. "You'll cry, leave, make a scene? You always threaten things you don't follow through on." My breath stopped. There it was. His real voice. The one he kept hidden until he felt powerful. The one I'd felt but refused to acknowledge. Jessica looked at him, impressed. As if she liked this version of him. My heart hammered painfully. "So that's what you think of me," I said quietly. "Someone you can walk over, someone who won't do anything." He stepped forward. Too close. Too calm. "That's exactly what I think." My throat tightened, but not with tears. With something else. Something burning. A heat that rose from my ribs to my jaw. I stepped back. "You're wrong," I whispered. Daniel's eyes narrowed. He hadn't expected that. Not from me. Not anymore. Jessica finally spoke again. "I should probably go," she said, though she didn't move an inch. My gaze snapped to her. "Not yet." Daniel said. "What?" "No, she can go." "No," I repeated, eyes locked on Jessica. "You stay." She arched a brow, intrigued. "So," I said quietly. "Which one of you wants to explain first?" Daniel swallowed hard. Jessica tilted her head. Neither spoke. Silence, thick, heavy, filled the room. "All right," I said. "I'll ask better questions." I turned to Jessica. "When did you meet him?" She shrugged. "At a lounge. In June." My stomach clenched. June. The month Daniel suddenly became busy at work. The month he started leaving earlier, coming home later. I looked at him. He looked away. "And how often do you two talk?" Jessica smiled. "Every day. Every day." My vision blurred for a second. I steadied myself on the dresser. And how long, I whispered, have you been sleeping with my husband? Daniel shot up straight. Stop. That never happened. Jessica didn't move. Didn't react. Didn't deny it. That silence was louder than any confession. I felt something inside me collapse, not loudly, but quietly, like a building already hollowed out. You didn't even tell her? Jessica asked Daniel softly, almost amused. Daniel's face went red. Not with guilt. With anger. At her for revealing too much. At me for seeing it. My breath trembled. This wasn't just betrayal. This was humiliation. Daniel finally exploded. This is ridiculous. She's lying. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Jessica rolled her eyes. You told me you two were practically separated. I froze. Separated? I whispered. Daniel's head snapped toward her. I never said that, stop lying. But she wasn't even looking at him. She was looking at me. You should check his phone, she said. In case he tries to delete things. Daniel lunged toward her, not to hurt her, but to grab his phone. She stepped back. I stepped forward. Then my fingers closed around the device. Daniel froze. Give me the phone, he said. No, I replied. His eyes flashed fear mixed with fury. You don't need to see anything. I stared at the locked screen glowing in my hand. I do now. I entered his passcode. He didn't bother trying to stop me. He knew it was too late. The moment the home screen opened, my stomach dropped. Pinned to the top of his messages. Jessica. He tried to speak. I held up a hand. No. Not one word. I opened the thread. Jessica watched, arms folded, lips curved in a knowing smirk. Message after message appeared. Flirty. Intimate. Personal. Casual. Confident. Some from late nights. Some from early mornings. Some from days I thought he was too tired to talk to me. I scrolled deeper. My hand shook. My breath caught. Because then I saw a message that felt like a bullet. Daniel. She's too emotional. Too jealous. Too insecure for me. You get me more than she ever will. Being around you feels like breathing. The phone almost slipped from my hands. I blinked as tears filled my eyes, not from heartbreak, but from the sharpness of the truth slicing through every memory I'd been clinging to. He didn't just cheat. He didn't just lie. He dismantled me behind my back. Piece by piece. Word by word. I looked up at Daniel. He opened his mouth. And for the first time since I'd walked into that room, I didn't recognize him. Is this what you think of me? I asked. Is this how you talk about your wife? Daniel rubbed his face. I didn't mean that. I was upset. Upset? I repeated. So upset you needed another woman to soothe you. To validate you? To lie for you? Jessica scoffed. He never asked me to lie. He just didn't expect you to find out today. I glared at her. Do you enjoy this? Do you? She shot back. Dragging things out, clinging to someone who doesn't want you. My breath stopped. For a moment, one terrifying moment, I felt myself shrinking. Then something inside me surged. A strength I didn't know I had. I stepped toward her. Not close enough to touch, but close enough to make her step back. You don't get to talk about my marriage, I said. You don't get to walk into my room. You don't get to call me insecure while sleeping with someone else's husband. Små expression falda. Finally, Daniel stepped between us. Enough, he snapped. You're making a fool of yourself. My eyes lifted slowly to meet his. No, I said softly. You are. The silence afterward was suffocating. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, pacing. I can't deal with this right now. Then don't, I said. Just tell me the truth. How long? He stopped walking. His voice came out low. 3 months. The words slammed into me. Jessica didn't react. She already knew. But hearing it out loud, hearing him speak it, sent a tremor through me. 3 months. 3 months of lies. 3 months of whispers. 3 months of secrets. 3 months of watching me sleep beside him while he messaged her. My chest tightened painfully. I don't know who you are anymore, I whispered. Daniel didn't look sorry. He looked annoyed. What do you want me to say? He muttered. That I'm a terrible person? That I made a mistake? No, I replied. I want you to say the truth. He blinked. The truth? He asked. Yes. He swallowed hard. That you chose her. Jessica straightened confident again. Daniel didn't answer. He didn't deny it. He didn't object. He didn't choose me. And in that silence, the last piece of my denial finally crumbled. I lifted his phone and held it out to him. I'm done, I whispered. He reached for the phone. But at the last second, I pulled it back. Because something had caught my eye. A message buried deeper in their thread. One I hadn't seen before. A message that changed everything. The moment my thumb hovered over that message, a strange chill ran down my spine. The kind of feeling that crawls up the back of your neck when you absolutely know that whatever you're about to uncover will hurt more than what you've already seen. And I'd already seen enough to destroy a marriage. But fate apparently wanted to take a second swing at me. I tapped the message. The screen expanded. The words sharpened. And suddenly, my vision tunneled. It wasn't a text Daniel sent to Jessica. It was a text Jessica sent to Daniel. Jessica. Did you tell her about the room yet? She'll find out soon. You know the deal. He blinked. Then blinked again. The room? What room? Before I could process it, Daniel lunged for the phone. Give me that. I jerked back. My arms snapping behind me. No. Jessica sighed impatiently. You weren't supposed to scroll that far. My heart stuttered. Supposed to? I echoed softly. What exactly am I not supposed to know? Daniel ran both hands through his hair, pacing like a trapped animal. Nothing, he blurted. It's nothing. It's not what you think. I let out a breathy, humorless laugh. I don't even know what I think anymore. Jessica stepped forward with a kind of boldness only someone with nothing to lose could have. It's not a big deal, she said. We just thought. We? I repeated. That single word sliced through the air like a blade. You, I said to her, and my husband, planned something. She smirked. Planned is a strong word. No, I said quietly. It's the right one. Daniel turned on Jessica. Why would you say that? What is wrong with you? She shrugged, like this was some mildly annoying inconvenience. You're the one who didn't delete your messages. Daniel looked like he was about to crack open. Red-faced. Jaw tense. Caught between lying and imploding. I stepped toward him, phone in hand. What room? I asked again. Tell me. He shook his head. It's nothing. Jessica yawned. Just tell her. She'll find out in a few hours anyway. A few hours. The hair on my arms rose. What exactly happens in a few hours? I demanded. Jessica glanced at Daniel. Daniel glanced at the door. Then at the window. Anywhere but me. When he finally spoke, his voice trembled barely. We booked a second room. For what? I whispered. Silence. He didn't answer. But Jessica did. For us. The room tilted. Not metaphorically. Actually tilted like the floor had shifted a few inches to the left. For us? I repeated. Jessica nodded, utterly unfazed. Daniel didn't want to keep sneaking around, she said. He said he was tired of pretending. My lips parted, but no sound came out. Daniel shot her a deadly look. What the hell are you doing? I'm being honest, she snapped. You should try it. I felt something inside me crack, small but sharp. They had a room. For them. Booked while we were supposed to be resetting our marriage. I swallowed the burn rising in my chest. How long has that room been booked? I whispered. Neither answered. Which was answer enough. I just stared straight at Daniel. You were going to leave me alone in this room, I said softly. While you slept with her in another? He grimaced. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? He had no answer. Jessica spoke instead. He said he needed time away from you, she said simply. He said you were suffocating him. My chest tightened. Hard. Like a fist had wrapped around my heart and squeezed. But he didn't fold. Instead, I stepped closer to Daniel slowly until he was forced to look at me. Is that true? I asked. Am I suffocating you? His eyes flickered. Not with regret. With irritation. And that was worse than anything he could have said. Jessica sat down on the edge of the bed. As far as I'm concerned, she said casually, this whole confrontation is pointless. He and I know what we want. My heartbeat thudded painfully. And what's that? I asked. She smiled. Not you. I inhaled sharply, too sharply. Daniel raised a hand. Stop. Jessica, don't. What? She shot back. She deserves the truth. I turned to Daniel. Is that true? His jaw clenched. Things haven't been good between us. That's not what I asked. He looked away. Jessica didn't. She said it flatly. Daniel wants me. The world didn't shatter, not dramatically. It simply faded. Like someone dimmed the lights in my chest. Slow. Quiet. Cruel. I steadied myself on the dresser, fingers trembling. Daniel, I whispered. You brought me here. To break up with me? His silence was louder than the waves outside. It swallowed the room whole. Something changed in me then. Ifetito shift. Like a glass pane sliding into place behind my ribs, sealing off the softer parts. Pain didn't disappear. It transformed. Into clarity. Maybe for the first time in months, I saw Daniel clearly. Not the man I loved. Not the man I defended. Not the man I excused. Just a man who didn't care if he broke me. He looked small suddenly. Weak. Cowardly. Jessica stood and picked up her bag. Well, she said, if we're done, I need to get ready. The room's in Tower B, Daniel. Same as earlier. Earlier. My gaze snapped to him. You were already in that room today. I whispered. Daniel's eyes widened. Jessica smirked. Then she walked out the door, clicking softly behind her. But the silence she left behind was deafening. I stared at the door for a long, hollow moment. Then I turned back to Daniel. Were you with her this morning? He didn't speak. Daniel. I stepped closer. Look at me. He didn't. Look at me. Slowly. Painfully. He lifted his eyes. And the answer was already there. He had been with her. That morning. Before we even stepped onto the beach. Before he told me we were here to fix things. Before the sunscreen. Before the gaslighting. Before the lies. He had already chosen her. Why? I whispered. Daniel rubbed his forehead. I don't know. 3. He shrugged, actually shrugged. It just happened. My hands curled into fists. It just happened for 3 months? He snapped. You haven't exactly been perfect either. Mayav dropped. What? He stepped forward. You've been distant. Emotional. You make everything heavy. You never let anything go. You nag me. You don't trust me. I laughed. I actually laughed. Why would I trust you? Look at what you're doing right now. Because you're my wife, he shot back. Then treat me like one, I screamed. The room went still. Daniel flinched, the first real reaction he'd shown all day. And in that moment, for the first time, he looked scared. Not of losing me. Of what I might do next. I lowered my voice, dangerously calm. You were going to leave me today, weren't you? He swallowed hard. You brought me here, I continued, to make it easier on yourself. To drop me in a crowded city far from home so I wouldn't make a scene. So I couldn't fall apart around friends. So you could run straight into her arms without consequences. Daniel opened his mouth. I didn't let him speak. You weren't here to fix anything. A tear slipped down my cheek, not weak, but furious. You were here to throw me away. Daniel looked at me with a new expression, one I'd never seen him wear before. Guilt? No. Fear. Because behind me. His phone buzzed again. A new message. From Jessica. I turned the screen. And what I saw froze the blood in my veins. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a moment. I kept replaying the scene at the beach, the way Mark stood there, shirt damp with salt water and ego, acting as if I were the irrational one. While Jessica stood behind him with that smug little smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. Almost like she enjoyed the spectacle. Like she'd been waiting for it. When dawn finally crept across our hotel curtains, it wasn't gentle, it felt like it slapped me awake. My chest was tight, My eyes raw, my thoughts tangled. And Daniel. Daniel was snoring beside me like nothing had happened. I stared at him, my heart aching and boiling at the same time. I used to love watching him sleep. His quiet breathing used to feel like home. Now it just felt like a lie. A lie with warm skin and a familiar face. We were supposed to meet everyone downstairs for breakfast at 8:30. I wasn't going to go. Honestly, I didn't want to see either of them again. Not him. Not her. But something in me, call it wounded pride, call it instinct, refused to hide. If Jessica wanted a show yesterday, she wasn't getting another one today. I walked downstairs with my chin steady, even though my stomach felt like it was filled with broken glass. The group was already at a long patio table overlooking the ocean. Laughter spilled across the space, the kind that sounds rehearsed, polished, designed to cover tension. And then I saw her. Jessica. In a bright yellow sundress. The same one she wore on the trip we visited Nashville with this same group back in 2019. The significance punched me in the chest. Daniel once told me that yellow made her look like sunlight. He told me that years ago. Before I ever realized how often she hovered too close. How often she lingered when he spoke. How often she inserted herself into our moments. And now she was wearing it. Today. After what happened yesterday. Morning. Jessica called out, waving a little too eagerly. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. Daniel leaned toward me and whispered, almost annoyed. Please be normal today. Normal. As if he weren't the one who crossed a boundary so obvious it didn't need explaining. I didn't answer him. I simply took the empty seat far from him, far from her. Breakfast should have been simple. Order food. Eat. Smile politely. But of course, the universe had other plans. As the waiter walked away, I heard Jessica's voice, soft but not soft enough. I hope she's calmer today. Yesterday was a lot. A little laugh. A clink of a spoon. Then, I swear, Daniel is such a sweetheart for trying to keep the peace. The table chuckled. Something inside me snapped, not loudly, not visibly. It was quiet. Like the click of a lock. The kind that closes you out or traps you in. Daniel didn't defend me. He didn't even shift in his seat. He let them laugh. As everyone ate, I barely touched my food. My appetite was gone, burned away by humiliation and disbelief. Then my phone buzzed. A text message. From an unknown number. Unknown. You're not imagining it. They've been acting like this even before this trip. My heart stopped. Another message popped up instantly. Unknown. I don't want to be involved, but you deserve to know. She's not just a friend. And yesterday wasn't an accident. I swallowed hard, my blood turning cold. Who was this? Someone in our group? A stranger? A staff member who had noticed them? Another buzz. Unknown. Be careful. People lie more on vacations than anywhere else. I lifted my eyes from my phone, scanning the table. Someone here knew something. Someone had seen something. And more importantly, someone confirmed the fear twisting inside my ribs. Midway through the meal, Daniel finally turned to me. Can we talk later? He asked. Soft. Gentle. Pretending to care. I looked at him, really looked at him. His eyes were tired, not from guilt, but from having to manage me. He ran a hand through his hair and sighed. You embarrassed me yesterday. I really need you to let that go. Let it go. The sunscreen. The smirks. The whispers. The text message I just received. Right. I stared out at the beach and said quietly, I'm not the one who should be embarrassed. Jessica's fork froze midway to her lips. Daniel stiffened. There it was. The tension everyone was trying to pretend didn't exist. Just as the table fell silent, a gust of wind blew across us. Napkins fluttered. The waves thundered in the background. And for a moment, everything slowed. I felt something shift inside me. Not rage. Not despair. Clarity. This wasn't jealousy. This wasn't insecurity. This was betrayal dressed in sunscreen and excuses. Betrayal pretending to be harmless. And I wasn't going to sit quietly anymore. But the real crack, the real fracture in everything I thought I knew, came seconds later. Because Jessica leaned toward Daniel and whispered something behind her hand. Only, it wasn't quiet enough. I told you she'd react like this. My vision tunneled. She told him? About what? About me? How long had they been discussing my reactions, my insecurities, my feelings, behind my back? I stood up slowly, my chair scraping the floor. Everyone froze. Where are you going? Daniel asked. I looked at him, my voice low, steady, and colder than the ocean breeze. To find out how long this has been going on. The table erupted questions, gasps. Shifting chairs, hands reaching. But I was already walking away. And that's when my phone buzzed again. Unknown. If you really want answers, go to the pool deck. Right now. You'll see everything you need to see. My heartbeat thundered. What was waiting for me there? What truth was about to surface? I didn't know. But I walked toward the elevator with shaky hands, bracing myself. Because something told me I wasn't prepared for what I was about to discover. What do you think I was about to find at the pool deck? Drop your theories in the comments. And if you've ever felt that moment when everything inside you shifts, you're not alone. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime. But the sound felt deafening in my chest. My pulse hammered so loudly it drowned out everything else, the lobby music, the chatter of guests walking past, even my own thoughts. The message echoed in my head. Go to the pool deck. You'll see everything you need to see. Whoever sent it, they weren't guessing. They weren't speculating. They knew. The hallway leading to the pool deck was bright, sunlit, warm, but it felt cold. Sterile. Like the walls themselves were watching me walk toward something I wasn't meant to see. Step after step. Heartbeat after heartbeat. And then, I reached the glass doors. Before I even stepped outside, I saw them. Daniel. And Jessica. They were by the far side of the pool, near the cabanas, secluded, shaded, almost hidden from view. Jessica was standing close to him. Too close. Her hand was on his arm, fingers curling just slightly, like she was used to being there. Daniel wasn't pulling away. He wasn't uncomfortable. He was familiar. My stomach twisted. Then she leaned in. Not Akish. Not quite. But her mouth brushed his ear, almost intimate, as she whispered something. Something that made Daniel smile. A smile I hadn't seen on his face in weeks. It was small. Easy. Soft. The kind of smile people reserve for someone they trust. Someone they care about. My chest tightened so painfully I had to press my palm against it. Jessica laughed a low, warm sound and nudged him playfully. Daniel shook his head, pretending to be annoyed. But the look he gave her, it wasn't the look of friendship. Not even close. It was the look of someone who's already crossed a line emotionally, even if physically, they could still deny it. A lump rose in my throat. The pool deck blurred for a moment, my eyes stinging, breath trembling. I wanted to storm out. I wanted to scream. I wanted to confront them right then and there. But something stopped me. Something stronger than anger. Something colder than heartbreak. Curiosity. If there was more to find, I needed to find it. Because at this point, intuition wasn't enough. Suspicion wasn't enough. I needed proof. As I stood behind the glass doors, frozen between rage and devastation, someone stepped up beside me. A soft voice whispered, "You shouldn't blame yourself. People like them. They make you feel crazy on purpose." I turned. A young woman, probably mid-20s, wearing resort staff attire. Hair pulled into a tight bun. Eyes sympathetic and tired. "I'm sorry," I said, trying to steady my breathing. "Do we know each other?" She shook her head. "No. But I know what you're looking for." My heart thudded. "Are you the one who texted me?" I asked. She hesitated, then nodded. "Yes. And before you think anything else, I'm not doing this out of spite. I'm doing it because I saw something yesterday I wish someone had told me when I was in your shoes." My skin prickled. "What did you see?" I whispered. She glanced toward the pool deck. "Not here. Cameras are everywhere." She murmured. "Follow me." My pulse spiked. Fear? Hope? I couldn't tell. But I followed her down a narrow hallway toward the staff area, a place guests weren't meant to go. She unlocked a small office and closed the door behind us. "This isn't official," she said. sitting at a desk. But, yesterday, after the sunscreen incident, your husband and that woman went somewhere together. I swallowed hard. Where? The north stairwell. It's not used much. Cameras only cover the entrance. She pulled up a timestamp from yesterday afternoon. My hands shook. On the screen, Daniel and Jessica, walking quickly down the hallway, looking around first, not laughing, not casual, secretive. Jessica reached the stairwell first. Daniel followed. Jessica opened the door. Daniel stepped inside. Jessica stepped in after him. And the door closed. Time stamp. 3:17 p.m. My stomach dropped. Then she pulled up the next motion-triggered capture. 3:31 p.m. They exited. Jessica's hair was messy. Daniel's shirt was wrinkled. They weren't touching. But the tension, the energy, the closeness. It was unmistakable. My mouth went dry. How long were they inside? I whispered. 14 minutes, she replied quietly. But it's not just that. She clicked a different file. This one from last night. Time stamp. 11:46 p.m. There they were again. Same stairwell. My hand flew to my mouth. Jessica was crying. Daniel was holding her shoulders, comforting her, speaking close to her face. And then, he wiped a tear from her cheek. Gentle, familiar, intimate. Something inside me cracked. Then the woman paused the video and looked at me. I don't know what's going on, she said softly, but it isn't innocent. And you deserve to know before they make you feel like you're imagining everything. My breath trembled. My body trembled. Everything trembled. I need a moment, I whispered. She nodded and stepped outside, closing the door behind her. For a long moment, I stood alone in that tiny office, staring at the frozen image on the screen. Daniel, wiping another woman's tears. Wiping her tears. The same woman he defended over me. The same woman he told me not to be jealous about. 14 minutes in a stairwell. Twice in one day. I sank onto the edge of the chair, gripping the sides so tightly my knuckles ached. This wasn't sunscreen. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't just a friend. This was betrayal. Not the dramatic, explosive kind. The subtle, quiet, creeping kind that erodes trust from the inside, one secret moment at a time. And what hurt worst wasn't that he was doing this. It was that he made me doubt myself for noticing. My phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. He's lying to both of you. She doesn't know everything either. If you want the whole truth, meet me tonight by the beach lifeguard tower #6. Midnight. Come alone. My breath hitched. He's lying to both of you. Both. So Jessica wasn't the only one being manipulated. A new kind of anger rose inside me, sharper, clearer, colder. This wasn't just cheating. This was a web. A pattern. A game he'd been playing long before this trip. And I suddenly knew. I wasn't the only victim. I stepped out of the tiny office with one thought burning through the pain. I was going to that lifeguard tower. And whoever was waiting for me there. They were going to give me answers Daniel could never lie his way out of. The hours between that footage and midnight felt like a lifetime. I walked out of the staff hallway with my mind spinning. My chest heavy, my hands cold. But underneath the devastation, something else was forming. A pulse. A shift. A quiet. Rising certainty. Daniel thought I was fragile. He thought I'd break. He thought I'd sit quietly, swallow everything, and accept whatever story he fed me. He had no idea who he was dealing with. When I returned to the suite, Daniel was on the balcony, scrolling through his phone like nothing mattered. He didn't even hear me come in. I watched him for a moment, watched how relaxed he was. How unaffected. Of course he was calm. Liars stay calm when they think they're in control. I stepped out onto the balcony. He finally looked up. Oh, there you are. No concern. No remorse. Just mild irritation. You disappeared. I held his gaze, my voice emotionless. I needed space. He shrugged. Okay, but you didn't need to make everyone uncomfortable at breakfast. You owe Jess an apology, by the way. The audacity struck me like a slap. An apology. For what he did. To me. I didn't respond. I didn't trust myself to. Instead, I turned and walked back inside. Behind me, I heard him sigh annoyed, inconvenienced, then mutter under his breath. She's so dramatic. Right then, I stopped hurting. I started planning. Later that afternoon, the group decided to rent jet skis. Daniel didn't bother inviting me. Of course he didn't. But that turned into my first small victory of the day. Because when they left, Daniel, Jessica, and the rest of them, the staff member from earlier quietly approached me by the towel station. Here, she whispered, slipping me a small folded note. You should read this before tonight. Mi pulse kikkerup. I took the note and moved away from the pool, finding a quiet corner by the palm trees. Inside was a single sentence. You're not the only woman he's brought here before. The words didn't just sting. They burned. It wasn't about Jessica. It wasn't even about this trip. This was a pattern. And this resort. This beach. This exact place. How many times had he used this spot as a backdrop for deception? I closed the note with shaking hands. But I wasn't defeated. Oddly, I felt steadier. Knowledge was power. Proof was power. And I was collecting both. Around 6 p.m., I walked along the beach to clear my mind. The sun was lower now, casting long shadows across the sand. As I approached the tiki bar, a woman maybe in her early 30s suddenly spoke up. Are you Mark's wife? I froze. She stood alone at the bar, sunglasses on, but something about her posture, tense, guarded. Yes, I replied slowly. Do we know each other? She exhaled sharply, like that confirmed something she already suspected. I thought so, she said. He has a type. My heart stuttered. What do you mean? She turned slightly, lifting her sunglasses just enough for me to see her eyes, tired, wary, angry. I dated him. Years ago. A bitter laugh. If you can call it dating when you're never the only one. My stomach dropped. Daniel had a history. How did you know I was his wife? I asked. She nodded toward the beach path. I saw him with that other girl. Jessica. He used to bring me here. Same resort. Same bar. Same stairwell. A chill crawled up my spine. The stairwell. Listen, the woman continued, sipping her drink. I'm not trying to make your life harder. But if someone had warned me earlier, I would have saved myself years of confusion. She pulled a small business card from her bag and handed it to me. On the back is a number, she said. Someone who knows him better than anyone. My breath caught. Who? She lowered her voice. His ex-fiancé. My heart slammed against my ribs. Ex-fiancé. He told me he'd only been engaged once to me. The woman nodded, seeing the shock on my face. He lies about his past the same way he lies about his present. I looked down at the card. A name. A number. Everything inside me screamed to call it. But I forced myself to wait. Midnight first. Answers first. Because something told me the person waiting for me at Lifeguard Tower #6 knew even more. Good luck, the woman said gently. You'll need it. She walked away, leaving me trembling on the sand. By 10 p.m., Daniel and the group returned from jet skiing, drunk on adrenaline and laughter. Jessica was clinging to his arm like she owned it. He didn't pull away. In front of everyone. In front of me. That familiar ache rose. But now it mixed with something sharper resolve. He still thought I was clueless. He still thought I was hurt, emotional, insecure. He didn't know I had footage. He didn't know someone was feeding me information. He didn't know I wasn't walking blindly anymore. And he definitely didn't know I had a meeting set for midnight. He approached me in the suite later, smelling like salt water and cologne. You good? He asked casually. I smiled. A slow, controlled smile. Yes, I said softly. I'm good. He nodded, relieved. He had no idea that was the moment he should have started panicking. At 11:54 p.m., I slipped quietly out of the suite and walked down the moonlit beach. The wind was cold. The waves were loud. The lifeguard tower loomed ahead, empty, shadowed, waiting. Someone stood beneath it. Someone who turned when they heard my footsteps. And for a brief second, I couldn't breathe. Because it wasn't who I expected. Not even close. The figure beneath lifeguard tower #6 stood still motionless except for the ocean breeze pushing at their clothes. Moonlight painted the sand in pale silver, and every step I took echoed in my bones. When they finally turned toward me, I froze. It wasn't the staff member. It wasn't the woman from the tiki bar. It wasn't a stranger. It was Jessica. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. Her yellow sundress fluttered in the wind, the same one she wore this morning, the same one that felt like a warning I didn't understand until now. Fear tightened in my stomach. Anger flared in my chest. "What are you doing here?" I demanded, my voice low. She swallowed, nerves flickering across her face. "I'm the one who messaged you." My heart lurched. "No," I whispered. "No, that's impossible." She stepped closer, hands trembling. "I had to tell you. I had to show you. I can't do this anymore." "What? What does that mean?" Jessica exhaled shakily, almost like she was bracing for impact. "It means," she said painfully, "that Daniel has been lying to both of us." For a moment I genuinely forgot how to breathe. "You're lying," I said, because denial was easier than accepting her words. "You're trying to manipulate me." She shook her head, eyes glossy. "No. I promise you I didn't want any of this. I didn't plan it. I didn't chase him." I laughed bitterly. "The stairwell, the whispering, the touching, what was that then?" Jessica's face crumpled. "I thought he loved me." A cold, sharp silence swallowed us. "He told me he and you were practically over," she continued, her voice cracking. "He said he stayed with you because you're too emotional to handle the truth." My hands curled into fists. "Is that what he told you?" I whispered. She nodded. "And that's why you acted so smug? So superior? Like you knew something I didn't." "I wasn't smug," she protested, but the lie died in her throat. I was relieved. I believed him. I thought we could finally be open. The betrayal didn't just sting anymore. It scorched. She wasn't innocent. Not by a long shot. But she wasn't the monster I thought she was either. The real monster was the man smiling in our hotel room, blissfully unaware that the two women he'd been lying to were finally standing face to face. Jessica wiped her eyes. "The first time he came here with me, he told me he had never brought anyone else. Just me. That this place was ours." My blood turned to ice. "He told me the same thing," I murmured. "The woman from the bar. Jessica. Me. How many more?" Jessica looked at me, her voice trembling. "You're not the first. And I'm not the last. He rotates us. He plays us against each other. He says whatever he needs to say to keep us hanging on." I felt my knees weaken, but I stayed standing. Then she took a shaky breath that seemed to weigh her down. "And the worst part? I didn't even come here to warn you." "Not at first." My eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" She looked ashamed. "I came here to tell you I didn't want to hide anymore." The world tilted. "But then," she whispered, "I found something in his phone." My stomach churned. "What?" Jessica reached into her bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She handed it to me. "Read it." I unfolded it. My throat closed. It was a printed email. From Mark. To another woman. Someone named Amber. The subject line made my skin crawl. "Miami trip details she'll never know." The email contained flight confirmations. A hotel reservation. Details. For next month. With another woman entirely. My vision blurred. Jessica said quietly. "I realized he was never going to choose me. Or you. Or anyone." I staggered back a step. The waves roared in my ears. "He cheated on both of us," I whispered. "And was planning another trip with someone else." Jessica nodded. "It gets worse." My breath hitched. "Don't," I said, but she continued anyway. "He told Amber, the same thing he told me. The same thing he told you." She met my eyes. "That you were unstable." My chest felt like it was being crushed from the inside. Jessica stepped closer, voice almost apologetic. "And the stairwell? That wasn't me trying to steal him. That was him convincing me not to reveal anything to you. He said if you found out, you'd make a scene. That you'd embarrass him. Of course. That's why he was so calm." So collected. So rehearsed. He'd done this before. Many times. I felt something inside me shifted deep. Tectonic shift, like the ground of my life was rearranging itself into something sharper. Something stronger. Something dangerous. And there's one more thing, Jessica said, stepping away as if bracing herself. What? I whispered. She swallowed. Daniel told me that you and I shouldn't ever talk alone. He said you'd twist things. That you'd try to make me turn against him. A hollow laugh escaped me. He said the same to me, about you. Jessica nodded slowly. He wanted us to hate each other. And in that pause, the truth settled like a blade sliding into place. This wasn't an accidental betrayal. This wasn't a foolish mistake. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was a system. A machine. A deliberate strategy of manipulation and emotional isolation. He kept us separated so he could keep lying. He kept us insecure so he could stay in control. He kept us jealous so we never comparen ons. But now? Now we were talking. Now the puzzle pieces were connecting. And now? He was in real danger. Because two women who've been lied to will burn an empire to the ground when they finally join forces. Jessica took a deep breath. I'm done with him, she said shakily. But I don't know what we should do next. I stared out at the dark waves, my voice low and steady. Oh, I know exactly what we're going to do. Jessica looked at me, eyes widening. What? I turned toward the resort lights, the outline of our suite glowing on the 8th floor like a stage waiting for its actor. We're going to make him regret ever thinking he could play us. Night fell over Miami Beach like a velvet curtain, heavy and dark, swallowing the last streaks of orange that bled across the horizon. The shoreline, once loud with tourists and children and crashing waves, had grown quiet, eerily quiet, as if the whole coast sensed something shifting beneath its surface. And I felt it too. A slow, steady tightening in my chest. A quiet storm gathering behind my ribs. The kind of silence that comes before a truth finally cracks open. The hotel room was dim, lit only by a single lamp that flickered every few seconds, casting long shadows across the floor. The air conditioning hummed, a low, steady drone. My suitcase lay half open on the bed, spilling clothes like a wound refusing to close. I sat on the edge of the mattress, wiping away the last traces of tears I didn't want to admit I'd cried. I had found the messages. I had seen the lies. I had heard his voice on the balcony. And yet, I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. Tonight would be the night I entered the part of myself I used to fear, the part that didn't plead for explanations or cling to promises. The part that observed. Calculated. Chose her moment. Daniel's betrayal had turned something inside me. What had been soft became sharp. What had been patient became cold. And what had been wounded became dangerous. At 10:47 p.m., a knock sounded on the door, abrupt, too firm to be housekeeping, too late for room service. I froze. A second knock followed. Then a voice I knew far too well. Babe, open the door. Daniel. My pulse spiked for reasons I couldn't untangle: anger, disgust, fear, heartbreak, all twisting into a single electric pull. He wasn't supposed to be here yet. I had timed everything carefully. His message to her said midnight. Had he changed his plans? Or was he testing me? I stood slowly, wiped my face with the back of my hand, and walked toward the door with the calm of someone approaching a trap they built themselves. Open up, he repeated. Please. His tone wasn't soft. It wasn't remorseful. It was strained, uneven, off. I cracked the door open an inch. His eyes met mine, wild, bloodshot, unsettled in a way I had never seen before. We need to talk, he said. 3 things went through my mind. He looked wired, like adrenaline was buzzing through his veins. He wasn't alone. Someone lingered just out of sight in the hallway. This was not a conversation he came to have, this was something else entirely. I opened the door fully, just enough to show I wasn't scared. Even if I was. Where were you? Daniel asked as he stepped inside, breath hot and unsteady. I checked everywhere. Everywhere. For me? He set something down on the dresser. A phone. His phone. Unlocked. My stomach tightened. He never left that phone unattended. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing once, twice, like a man trying to swallow his own panic. "We have a problem," he said finally. "Oh, Daniel." He had no idea. He turned toward the window, staring out at the dark ocean like it could steady him. The city lights haloed him in a warped glow. "What I told you earlier," he began. "About her. The sunscreen. The beach. Everything. I shouldn't have handled it that way." He wasn't apologizing. He was positioning himself. "I shouldn't have lied," he added, softer now. But there it was. The slip. The moment I had been waiting for. He had never admitted to lying before. My voice came out steady, neutral. "Which part was the lie, Daniel?" He swallowed, hard. His throat bobbed like he was forcing something down. "You're tired," he deflected. "We should sit." "No," I said. "Answer." He turned slowly and for a moment I saw something flicker in his eyes. Fear. Not of me. But of what he thought I knew. His voice dropped to a whisper. "I didn't think you'd notice." There it was. The closest thing to a confession he had ever given. But what did he think I had noticed? The messages? The balcony call? Or something much bigger? My silence pressed on him like a weight. And Daniel finally broke eye contact. "She wasn't supposed to be there," he muttered. "Who?" I waited. He hesitated, then said, "Bianca." My stomach dropped. He said her name. Out loud. Without being cornered into it. And that was when everything in me clicked into place. He wasn't just guilty. He was panicking because something had gone wrong. Very wrong. As Daniel kept talking, rambling now, pacing again, unraveling in real time, I felt the hairs on my arms rise. Someone was moving outside the door. A soft step. Another. A shift of weight. Slow. Intentional. I moved closer to Daniel, lowering my voice. He stiffened. "What?" "You didn't come alone," I said. He didn't deny it. He didn't even breathe. The silence confirmed what I already suspected. I stepped toward the door and placed my hand on the knob, not to open it, but to feel the vibrations. Someone was definitely outside. Listening. Daniel's voice cut through the tension, too sharp, too sudden. "Don't." He grabbed my wrist. Harder than necessary. I twisted free. "Why not, Daniel? Who did you bring?" His eyes darted toward the door. Not with guilt. With dread. "Just trust me," he whispered. The words tasted wrong in the air. Trust him? The man who lied? The man who hid messages? The man who touched another woman's back and called it innocent? Before I could respond, a soft, feminine voice whispered through the door. "Daniel, is everything okay?" "Bianca." She was standing on the other side. Daniel rushed toward the door too fast and braced his hand against it as if blocking it from opening. "Just go." He hissed through the crack. "I'll fix it." "Fix it?" I repeated. He flinched. I felt the world tilt. The lamp flickered again, the AC hummed louder, the ocean outside roared like it had been holding its breath until now. "Daniel," I said quietly. "What did you do?" He didn't answer. But he didn't have to. Everything inside me crystallized in an instant. The midnight meeting. The messages. The secret panic. The person he didn't expect to show up. The way he had been searching for me, not her. The fear in his eyes. Something had happened between them. Something he was trying desperately to contain. I stepped closer, until I could see my reflection in his trembling pupils. "What did you do to her?" He backed away from the door, chest rising and falling too fast now. Bianca knocked softly. "Daniel, you told me." "Don't," he snapped. "Say anything." And suddenly, I understood. He wasn't worried about me finding out. He was worried about what she might say. I walked calmly to the door and placed my hand on the knob again. "Daniel Lund. Don't open it. Too late." I pulled the door wide. And the hallway light spilled in, revealing Bianca standing there, eyes wide, mascara smudged, cheeks flushed. Her beach dress wrinkled like someone had grabbed her, pulled her, dragged her into something she wasn't prepared for. The moment she saw me, she gasped. Not guilty. Not ashamed. Terrified. "Please," she whispered. "I didn't know he was married." The entire hotel floor went silent. Daniel inhaled sharply. She shook her head violently. "Don't touch me again." He froze. I stepped aside. "Come in." She entered. He didn't stop her. Because he couldn't. For the first time, Daniel wasn't the man in control of the room. And he knew it. Bianca stood there trembling, staring at me like she was silently begging for protection from him. Daniel clenched his jaw, fists tightening at his sides, chest heaving with a mix of rage and panic. And then Bianca said a sentence that split the night open. "He didn't tell me you existed." The room exhaled a breath it didn't know it was holding. My hands went cold. Daniel went still. And the entire trajectory of this story tilted. Because if he didn't tell her I existed, that meant this wasn't a flirtation. Or an accident. Or a moment of weakness. This was planned. Deliberate. Calculated. This was betrayal at its highest form. But the night wasn't done revealing itself. There was one more truth waiting beneath the surface, darker, sharper, deeper than infidelity. Something that would turn this night into the beginning of something none of us could walk away from unchanged. Something that would make the ocean itself seem calm by comparison. And it was about to come out. The hallway felt impossibly small, heavy with the heat of confrontation, the hum of the AC, and the weight of truths waiting to explode. Bianca's eyes darted between me and Daniel, her lips trembling like she wasn't sure what to say or if she could say anything at all. I felt my hands clench into fists. Daniel, once the center of control, now looked small. Cornered. Vulnerable in the way only liars are when the illusion finally fractures. And I realized something terrifyingly liberating. I was no longer the victim of his games. Bianca spoke first, voice shaking but firm. "He's been seeing me for weeks. But he told me, he's not married," she whispered. She looked at Daniel, eyes wide and accusing. "I would have never come if I'd known." My stomach dropped. A sick, twisting pit that somehow matched the fury building inside me. Daniel's jaw tightened. His shoulders stiffened. The calm, controlled man I had known, the one who laughed off my suspicions and brushed off Jessica, had disappeared. "It's not what you think," he started. But his words sounded hollow. And I knew they were hollow. Bianca's voice rose, shaky but cutting through the tension like a knife. "Not what I think? He's married. How could you lie to me, Daniel?" That's when I realized. The game wasn't just betrayal or lies. It was layers of betrayal stacked like traps. I stepped forward slowly, letting my presence fill the room. "Daniel," I said, voice low and even. "Do you see what you've done?" He flinched but said nothing. "You lied to me. You lied to Jessica. And you lied to her," I said, gesturing to Bianca. "Do you have any idea how many people you've hurt?" Daniel's breathing became shallow. I could see the panic creeping in. The control slipping. For weeks, months, maybe even years, I had played along. I had doubted myself. I had asked myself, am I overreacting? Now, standing in the truth's gravity, I realized. I wasn't overreacting. I was awakening. Before Daniel could respond, Bianca's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and paled. It's a message from someone else," she said softly. Her hand shook as she unlocked the screen. A text from an unknown number. "He's planning to bring another one tomorrow. He has no boundaries. Meet me by the north stairwell at 2 a.m. if you want the full truth." My blood ran cold. Not because of the message. Because of the pattern. And because I knew immediately someone else had been watching all of this. I glanced at Bianca. She looked at me. And in that split second, a silent agreement passed between us. We wouldn't let him manipulate anyone else. Not now. Not ever. Daniel finally opened his mouth, his voice cracking. "You don't understand, you don't know the whole story." I raised an eyebrow. "I know enough to know you've been lying to all of us," I said. "And that's why tonight ends differently." He swallowed hard, a shiver passing through him. He started again, but I cut him off. "No. You listen. I've seen your emails. I've seen your texts. I know about the stairwell. I know about Jessica. I know about Bianca. And I know that if I don't act now, you'll hurt someone else. And I will never let that happen." He swallowed. His eyes darted nervously between us. And that's when I saw it. The fear. The true, raw fear of a man who has been untouchable for too long. Because for the first time, he wasn't in control. I turned to Bianca. She nodded slightly, the faintest tremor in her lips betraying the fear still running through her. But there was something else too. Determination. The same fire I felt coursing through me. We end this, I said. Together. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Together, she echoed. Daniel's eyes widened. He stepped back. You're serious? He whispered. Yes, I said. Deadly serious. The room vibrated with tension, electric, charged, inevitable. Because what Daniel thought was chaos, was actually the calm before the storm. At 1:58 a.m., we slipped out of the suite quietly, the hotel silent around us. The north stairwell loomed ahead, shadowed and silent. Somewhere in the dark, someone had been watching. Someone had been waiting. And when we reached the stairwell, a silhouette moved in the shadows, barely visible under the emergency lights. I stopped. Bianca stopped. And then I heard the words that made my blood freeze. I've been expecting you. The stairwell smelled of damp concrete and old paint. The fluorescent lights flickered, casting uneven shadows that made every step feel like a gamble. Bianca and I moved slowly, deliberately, our footsteps muted against the cold metal stairs. Every creak, every echo carried weight, every sound amplified in the cavernous shaft of secrecy. Tonight wasn't about tears. It wasn't about anger. It wasn't about Mark or Daniel anymore. Tonight was about control. Restoration. Justice. Ahead of us, in the shadowed corner of the stairwell landing, stood a figure small, deliberate, poised. The moonlight caught the edge of their face. I've been waiting, the figure said, voice calm, almost clinical. Bianca glanced at me, her eyes wide. I nodded slightly. We were ready. I pulled out the evidence we'd collected: photos, screenshots, the printed emails, and the timestamps of every interaction. Every lie. Every betrayal. Every manipulation meticulously documented. This is the map, I whispered to Bianca. Every step he took, every lie he told. Tonight we expose it all. And we make him watch the consequences of his choices. Her hand trembled. But she took mine, gripping it like an anchor in a storm. I took a deep breath, feeling the electricity of empowerment surge through me. It wasn't about vengeance. Not exactly. It was about taking back what he had tried to steal. Our dignity, our truth, our clarity. The confrontation. The figure in the corner, the watcher, the unknown informant, stepped closer. A soft click, and a small portable projector illuminated the concrete wall. There, in stark white light, flickered the footage. Daniel and Jessica in the stairwell. Mark and Bianca in texts that he had hoped no one would see. His lies unraveling like threads in the wind. Everything, the watcher said. All of it. And it's going public unless you stop it. My pulse raced. Bianca's hand gripped mine tighter. We both understood. He had underestimated the power of truth. He had underestimated us. We moved down the stairs, projecting footage onto the walls, showing timestamps, messages, screenshots, the stairwell interactions, everything. Daniel, finally realizing the scope of exposure, appeared at the hotel's stairwell entrance. Flustered, panicked. What is this? He shouted. The facade of control, polished for months, cracked in an instant. I stepped forward. This is your life, Daniel. Every lie, every manipulation, every woman you've hurt. All of it, on display. He staggered back. Breathless. Unarmed against the evidence we wielded. Bianca leaned forward, projecting her own collected messages onto the wall. Mark, you lied to me too. You lied to her, and you lied to me. You thought you could control all of us. But control is an illusion. Daniel's face pallid. Eyes darting, desperate. His voice shook, barely audible. You can't saw this. Oh, we could. And we would. By 2:28 a.m., the stairwell became a gallery of truth. Screenshots, timestamps, videos, the walls reflected the full magnitude of his deception. Each projection was a dagger aimed at his ego, slicing through years of lies with cold precision. Daniel's hands shook. Bianca's breathing was uneven but controlled. And he felt clarity. For the first time, the fear was ours, not his. The projector clicked, illuminating the final piece. His email to Amber, clearly scheduling another rendezvous. I whispered, voice firm. Do you see now? This is not about jealousy. Not about emotion. This is about reality. And reality doesn't bend for liars. Daniel's knees buckled. His mask of charm shattered entirely. The execution had begun. Suddenly, the watcher's voice pierced the tense air. There's one more person who needs to see this. And if you want the full truth, they'll arrive any second. Bianca and I exchanged a glance. A new layer. A new revelation waiting in the shadows. And in that split second, we understood. This night wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The hotel stairwell had transformed into a courtroom of truth. Each projection on the walls told a story Daniel had tried to bury: lies, betrayal, manipulation, and deceit. The air smelled of damp concrete, sweat, and fear, mostly his. I stood there, my hands trembling slightly, but my heart solid. Bianca at my side, silent but resolute. And Mark, trapped in the epicenter of his own web. I had waited for this moment for so long. I had rehearsed it, imagined it, built it meticulously. And yet, standing face to face with the man who had shattered my world, nothing could fully prepare me for the raw emotion flooding my chest. Daniel's voice cracked as he spoke, finally vulnerable in the way he had never allowed before. Why are you doing this? I can explain. I shook my head slowly. No, Daniel, I said, using the name that felt like the last thread of intimacy I had once clung to. No explanations. No apologies. You've had years to explain yourself, and all you did was lie, manipulate, and hurt everyone in your path. His shoulders sagged. He looked smaller, diminished. The charm, the arrogance, the control gone. Bianca stepped forward, her voice steady, shaking only slightly. You lied to me too. You made me believe I was special. And you've been lying all along. Daniel's eyes darted between us, panic rising. I didn't know how to stop. I didn't mean. I cut him off, voice sharp. You didn't mean. That's your excuse? Not once did you consider the women you were destroying, the lives you were manipulating. Not once did you think about me, Jessica, or Bianca as humans with feelings. We were pieces in your game. I could see the guilt and terror finally registering. Not relief. Not apology. Fear. I tried to speak again, but his words were muffled by the weight of his actions laid bare on the walls. Screens flickered with every message, every lie, every betrayal. I took a deep breath. Do you know what this feels like? I asked. Voice breaking slightly. It feels like being invisible while someone you loved carves themselves a throne out of your trust. It feels like being replaced, erased and mocked, and yet, having to smile, pretend, survive. Bianca's voice joined mine softly. And we were all complicit, in our silence. But not anymore. Daniel's shoulders shook. Tears threatened but didn't fall. Panic replaced any semblance of control. I realized something in that moment. This confrontation wasn't just about him. It was about reclaiming myself. About proving that no one, not even him, could define my worth or break my spirit again. I stepped closer, voice rising with anger tempered by clarity. You think a single apology can undo what you've done? That words can erase years of manipulation. Do you even understand the depth of what you've taken from all of us? He shook his head, unable to answer. The room seemed to contract around him, shadows swallowing his arrogance. I trusted you, I said quietly, almost trembling. I loved you. And you made me doubt myself at every turn. Every lie, every secret, every betrayal, it was all calculated. And now, it's over. Daniel sank to his knees, hands on his face. The man who had towered over me, controlled me, and lied to me, was finally vulnerable. Exposed. Bianca placed a hand on my shoulder. A small gesture. But it grounded me. I could feel the shift. The fear. The guilt. The realization that he had lost his power. And then I understood. Confrontation alone wouldn't be enough. He needed to face the consequences in full. He needed to witness the truth, not just feel it. I turned toward the projector wall, where his lies sprawled in white light, every betrayal a dagger pointed at his heart. This is the reality, Daniel, I said firmly. And you're going to live in it. Every day. Every moment. Until you understand exactly what you took from us. He lifted his head, eyes red, lips trembling. I interrupted, voice steady and final. You did. You did it all. And now. You will see it. Every single one. The emotional confrontation had stripped him bare. Not just of lies, but of control. Not just of arrogance, but of his illusion of invincibility. And in that moment, I felt the first surge of relief. Not complete peace. Not yet. But a start. Suddenly, a loud knock echoed through the stairwell. Not tentative. Not questioning. Deliberate. The unknown observer from the stairwell earlier appeared, stepping into the flickering light. I hope you're ready for the rest. The voice said. I exchanged a glance with Bianca. She swallowed, eyes wide. I smiled faintly, cold and determined. Because the execution wasn't over. Not even close. The night had started with clarity. With the crisp certainty of truth and revenge meticulously laid out. But now, the stairwell felt different. Heavier. Constricted. Like the shadows themselves were pressing in. The unknown observer, a woman I had never met, stepped forward. I'm here to make sure he doesn't escape this time, she said, voice low, almost clinical. I nodded once. Bianca's hand squeezed mine. I should have felt relief. I should have felt invincible. Instead, an uneasy knot twisted in my stomach. Because control is an illusion. And tonight was proving it. The accusation. Daniel, still on his knees, suddenly bolted toward the stairwell's emergency exit. Panic had replaced reason. The fear I had stoked was real but not enough. Stop him, I shouted. Bianca moved first, sprinting toward the door to block his path. I followed, but the hallway was narrow. Daniel twisted, knocked into the wall, and nearly slipped past us. For the first time that night, I realized, he was unpredictable. Even in his brokenness, he could still hurt someone or himself. We cornered him near the top landing. His breaths came in short, rapid bursts. The adrenaline in his eyes made him dangerous. You don't understand. He gasped. I can ruin everything. If I go down, you all. Enough, I said firmly, voice cutting through the panic. You don't get to control anyone anymore. Not us. Not Jessica. Not Bianca. Not your lies. Before Daniel could respond, the tablet the observer had carried lit up. Messages scrolled rapidly, notifications flashing. I intercepted something, the observer said, voice clipped. A series of texts from Amber, another woman in Daniel's web, appeared on the screen. He's lying to you. Just like the others. Watch out tonight. He told me about the first one. Don't get too close. My stomach sank. Amber. Another layer. Another complication. Mark's deception was far deeper than even I had imagined. We weren't just confronting him. We were untangling a network of lies. And with every revelation, the night grew more dangerous emotionally and physically. Daniel's panic evolved into defiance. He leaned against the stairwell railing, chest rising and falling rapidly, eyes darting between the three of us. You think you've won? He spat, venom rising in his tone. You have no idea what's coming. Bianca stepped forward, anger blazing in her eyes. Try me, she said. I've already seen the truth, you have no power here. I felt a surge of pride and fear simultaneously. This wasn't just revenge anymore. It was survival. Control had shifted, but unpredictability still lingered like a knife poised above our heads. Suddenly, Daniel lunged, grabbing the tablet from the observer. He swung it, breaking the screen and scattering our evidence across the floor. Bianca and I froze. The concrete hallway rang with the impact, the echo threatening to alert the hotel's security. It was the first real moment of chaos we hadn't foreseen. Our meticulous plan, the projected evidence, the confrontation, the control had a fracture. Daniel's eyes glinted with something dangerous. You think this ends here? He hissed. You don't know the half of it. He shoved past us and sprinted toward the main exit. Breathing heavily, I gritted my teeth. "Stop him," I shouted. Bianca and the observer flanked him. I pulled out my phone and hit record, broadcasting the confrontation live to a private account we had set up earlier. Evidence time-stamped, unalterable. Daniel didn't anticipate this. And that was our advantage. The chase resumed, tension snapping with every step. Each of us had to adapt, react, improvise, a far cry from the careful planning we had done for hours. And in that moment, I understood a crucial truth. Revenge is never a straight path. It's messy, dangerous, chaotic. And yet, it's still worth every risk. As we cornered Daniel near the service elevator, he suddenly stopped. His eyes widened with recognition, something we didn't see coming. From the shadows, a new figure emerged. Tall, confident, deliberate. The final player in this game. Daniel froze. Bianca and I tensed. And then the stranger spoke. Looking for him. The stairwell felt like it had become a theater of inevitability. Concrete walls, flickering lights, scattered evidence, all setting the stage for a revelation none of us could have anticipated. The tall figure stepped forward, the shadows outlining a presence that radiated authority and purpose. Daniel froze. Chest heaving, panic flickering across his face. Bianca and I exchanged a glance, hearts pounding, nerves taut. Who was this? And why had they arrived tonight, in the middle of our meticulously orchestrated plan? Looking for him? The stranger asked, voice calm, deliberate. The words sliced through the chaos of our confrontation like a scalpel. Daniel's face pallid. He stumbled backward, eyes wide. This isn't happening," he whispered, shaking. I stepped forward, voice low and cutting. "Who are you?" The figure smiled faintly, a glimmer of authority and hidden knowledge in their gaze. "My name is Detective Rivera," they said. "And you've been building quite the pattern, Mr. Thompson." I froze. Bianca's jaw tightened. Daniel's face drained of color. A detective. This wasn't just exposure. This wasn't just emotional confrontation. This was legal consequence. Detective Rivera pulled out a folder, tossing it onto the floor with a soft thud. Inside were documents, photographs, text logs, receipts, the culmination of an investigation we hadn't known was ongoing. "All of this," Rivera said, gesturing toward the projected evidence and the scattered documents, "matches reports we've received for months. Patterns of fraud, deception, emotional manipulation, and now, potential criminal charges." Mark's knees buckled. He sank to the floor, hands covering his face. The arrogance, the denial, the bravado completely gone. Bianca's hand found mine, a silent acknowledgement. We had not just orchestrated personal justice, the law was on our side. Detective Rivera continued, flipping through the folder. "You think hiding behind lies and manipulation keeps you safe. But it doesn't. And it won't. Not anymore. I felt offira ignita inside me." The empowerment wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice. Control. Clarity. Daniel's fear was no longer a shield for me. It was the tool of my liberation. I stepped closer to him, voice calm but icy. "You built a kingdom of lies, Daniel. And now, it's collapsing. Around you. Because the world doesn't forgive what you've done." Bianca's voice cut through the tense air, firm and unwavering. "We trusted him. We loved him. And he manipulated all of us. But tonight, he learns what it means to face the truth fully." Daniel's gaze darted between us. Disbelief and terror written across every line of his face. For the first time, the three of us, Bianca, Detective Rivera, and I, were aligned. The betrayal that had seemed insurmountable now became the foundation for action. Every lie he had told, every secret he had hidden, every betrayal he had committed. Detective Rivera paused, flipping to the last page of the folder. Daniel's face went pale as he saw the contents. "This," Rivera said, pointing at a single set of photographs, "shows everything. The stairwell incidents, the hotel encounters, even communications with third parties. You can't lie your way out of this. You can't hide anymore." He stepped closer, voice low, deliberate. "Daniel, this is what happens when lies are exposed. This is what happens when the people you hurt finally join forces. This is what happens when truth meets consequence." Daniel swallowed hard, trembling. There was no escape. Pause, whisper. The turning point had arrived. The secret had been revealed. And from this moment forward, the night and our lives would never be the same. Detective Rivera looked at me and Bianca, expression unreadable. There's one final thing you need to see, they said. A manila envelope slid from their briefcase, thick, heavy. The words inside it would change everything. Daniel's eyes widened in terror. Bianca's hand shook. I held my breath. And then Rivera said softly, "This is the part he never wanted anyone to know." The manila envelope lay on the floor between us like a ticking time bomb. Detective Rivera's eyes met mine, and I knew whatever was inside would either finish Mark completely or give us the leverage we needed to end this nightmare once and for all. I bent down slowly, fingers trembling, and lifted the envelope. The paper was thick, official, impossible to ignore. Inside were documents, contracts, statements, evidence that Daniel had been covering for years, manipulating not only relationships but businesses, finances, and even legal loopholes to protect himself. The truth was heavier than I expected. And it smelled like freedom. Daniel's knees hit the concrete as I opened the envelope. He realized instantly the magnitude of what was in my hands. This isn't real," he whispered, desperation bleeding through every word. I let him stew. Every second of panic, every tremor of fear was the reward of patience. Every lie he had spun, every betrayal he had crafted, now crushed him in real time. Detective Rivera stepped forward, voice steady, professional. "With this evidence, we can ensure that Daniel faces not just personal consequences, but legal ones as well. Fraud, emotional manipulation, harassment, all documented. All undeniable." I looked down at him, calm, ice cold. "You spent years thinking you were untouchable. Tonight proves otherwise." Bianca placed her hand on my shoulder. "Do it," she whispered. "Make him see the full extent of what he's lost." I stood over him, letting my voice carry, letting every word land like a hammer striking stone. "You thought you could play us. Lie to us. Betray us. But here we are, Daniel, all of us, standing while you fall." His eyes, once defiant, were wide and raw. He was small now. Cornered. Broken. I realized the power wasn't in punishment. The power was in revelation. In exposing the truth fully. In reclaiming control over my own life. Using the tablet we had previously smashed in Chapter 12, I began sending the collected evidence to trusted contacts, journalists, and a private legal network we had coordinated with Detective Rivera. Emails went out. Screenshots uploaded. Documents sent. Every line of deception, every betrayal, every manipulation made tangible and unalterable. Mark's breathing quickened. The panic was real now. No lies could save him. No charm could escape the consequences. I felt a wave of vindication, not just for me, but for every woman he had hurt, every person he had manipulated. This wasn't cruelty. This was justice. Daniel slumped against the wall, the weight of exposure pressing down on him like a physical force. I took a step back, letting him absorb the full magnitude of what we had done. Bianca's voice broke the silence. "This is your world now, Daniel. Full transparency. Full consequence. And you brought it on yourself." He didn't respond. He couldn't. The room was quiet except for our breathing and the faint hum of the projector still running. The fear, the panic, the realization, it all hung thick in the air. Finally, I understood. Revenge alone is never enough. Justice, careful, deliberate, unrelenting justice, is what sets you free. Just as we prepared to leave the stairwell, Detective Rivera spoke, voice calm but carrying gravity. "There's one more player in this game. Someone who's been watching, waiting, and keeping score. And they aren't happy." I froze. Bianca froze. Daniel shivered, terror resurfacing. A single phone buzzed from inside Rivera's coat. A text message, simple, chilling. "He's done, but she's next." The night wasn't over. Not by far. The city of Miami was quiet, almost serene, after the chaos of the night. The streetlights reflected off the wet pavement from a brief, early morning drizzle. I walked slowly, hand in hand with Bianca, the weight of what we had done finally settling in. It was strange, liberating, and terrifying at the same time. For years, I had let betrayal, lies, and manipulation define me. Tonight, I had reclaimed that power. Not with anger alone, not with vengeance alone, but with truth. Sitting on the hotel steps, I replayed the events in my mind. The lies. The stairwell confrontations. The projector illuminating every betrayal. Daniel's terror. The detective's intervention. I realized the night wasn't just about punishment. It was about awakening. It was about seeing clearly who I was, what I deserved, and who I wanted in my life. The heartbreak was still there, faint but persistent. The anger lingered, a reminder of lessons learned. But underneath it all, there was something stronger: clarity, empowerment, and self-respect. Bianca turned to me, eyes reflecting the first hints of morning light. "We did it," she said quietly. "Yes," I whispered back. "We finally did it." Her hand found mine, and this time, the grip was no longer a support for fear or strategy. It was a connection born from survival, truth, and solidarity. Together, we had faced deception, fear, and manipulation. Together, we had reclaimed our lives. And together, we would never let someone like him control or define us again. My phone buzzed. A notification: the broadcast we had sent to journalists and legal contacts. It was spreading, gaining traction, impossible for Daniel to hide from. I smiled faintly, a deep breath escaping my lips. Justice was not instantaneous. It would take time. But tonight, the first steps were taken. And in this quiet moment, I understood. Revenge had been the spark. Truth had been the weapon. Empowerment had been the reward. I looked out over the Miami skyline, the sun beginning to rise. The night of chaos, fear, and revelation had ended. But life, messy, unpredictable, and beautiful, continued. I thought about my past, my heartbreaks, my betrayals. And for the first time, I felt peace. Not complete peace. Not without scars. But the kind of peace that comes from knowing you are no longer a pawn in someone else's game. The night had been long, brutal, and transformative. And now, I was free. Just as we prepared to leave the steps, a shadow moved across the street, almost unnoticed. My phone buzzed again, a single, chilling text. "You've won this battle. But the war isn't over." I shivered, heart racing. Bianca's grip tightened on my hand. And I realized, even in resolution, life had more battles ahead. The first rays of the Miami sunrise broke over the horizon, painting the city in shades of gold and orange. The night's chaos had passed, leaving silence, clarity, and an unmistakable sense of closure. I sat on the hotel balcony, coffee in hand, the breeze brushing against my face, and I finally allowed myself to breathe. It had been months of deception, betrayal, and manipulation. But now, it was over. The legal consequences for Daniel were inevitable, and the evidence we had exposed ensured accountability. Justice wasn't instantaneous. It wasn't clean or painless. But it was real. I thought back to the heartbreak, the nights spent crying, questioning myself, wondering if I was overreacting. I thought about the lies and the betrayal, the constant gaslighting, and the fear I had carried silently. Through it all, I discovered something profound. The power to reclaim your life does not come from vengeance alone. It comes from truth. From clarity. From courage. I had been broken, but I was not defeated. I had been manipulated, but I was not powerless. I had been betrayed, but I had risen. Some people think betrayal defines you. It doesn't. Some people believe lies can hold you forever. They can't. The moment you confront the truth, reclaim your voice, and take deliberate action, that's the moment you become unstoppable. Betrayal can wound. Lies can deceive. But truth is liberation. I turned to Bianca, who sat beside me quietly. "We survived this," she said softly. "Yes," I replied. "And now it's time to live." And for anyone listening, anyone who's ever been lied to, betrayed, or manipulated, you have the power to reclaim your life. You have the strength to confront the truth. And you have the right to rise, stronger than ever. So I ask you, what would you do if you were in my shoes? Have you experienced betrayal or deceit? Tell me in the comments. And don't forget, the power of truth is unstoppable. The power of justice is real. And the power to rise is within all of us. The sun fully rose over Miami, bathing the city in light. I took a final deep breath, feeling the weight of the night lift from my shoulders. For the first time in months, I felt peace. For the first time, I felt free. For the first time, I knew that my life, my truth was mine again.